then we saw the second plane hit, and at that point we pretty much knew that this isn't a coincidence. We're being attacked in some way, shape, or form.
All right.
As a people,
Yes.
I think we did the right thing for a while. I think we came together. We put a lot of differences aside. Political scientists will call it the rally around the flag theory, where after a situation like that, people will come together and really rally. The last time we had seen that was probably the 1990-1991 Gulf War. It was amazing to see everybody come together and put differences aside and really just kind of be united against something, and be united for something. If you look at it 10 years later, how divided we are as a nation compared to where we were post September 11th, it's unbelievable to see the distance we have now from each other that we didn't have 10 years ago, politically, socially, everything.
All right. That's all I have.
All right, Dad, so where were you when you first heard of the 9/11 attack?
I was in a government building up in Baltimore attending a seminar.
All right, what was your first response when you saw him? Were you with a group of people? Were you by yourself? Did you get a phone call?
We had taken a break, walked by one of the offices in the building. Somebody had a TV on, a small TV, and the first plane had just hit the first tower. And we thought, how terrible, what a terrible accident, how could this happen? Watched it for a few moments and then went back to class. A short time later, someone came into the classroom, said a plane had hit the second tower. At that point, we kind of figured something was up. Government shut down the building, evacuated the building. Everybody went and got in their cars, headed home. I started trying to make calls to check on Mom, to check on you boys. Couldn't get any service because all the airwaves were so crowded with other people calling.
Can you remember what your first feeling was or initial reaction to seeing it?
I was saddened and angry, both tremendous.
And do you think that America's response in Afghanistan and Iraq was appropriate for this situation at hand?
At that time, I did.
Do you think it
At
still
that
is
time,
today?
I was out for blood. I wanted an eye for an eye.
Do you think we should still be in the situation that we are in?
I think if you're going to declare a war, you have to fight a war. I think we've been there too long and lost too many people. But it's my opinion.
Alright guys, this is Ryan Fatula and I'm interviewing my Uncle John on my 9/11 project. Alright Uncle John, where were you when you first heard of the 9/11 attacks, whether it was on the towers or the Pentagon or whatnot?
I was working I was on a project working for the city administrator in the district, and I was in my office on 19th Street, 19th and K Northwest.
What were your first thoughts or reactions to what you were seeing?
Well, I didn't see anything. One of the guys who worked with me, I didn't have a TV or a radio in my office, and one of the guys I worked with said, "Hey, a plane just hit the World Trade Center." He said, "I just got a report that a plane hit a World Trade Center," and we all thought it was just a Cessna or some other little plane that had hit the center. So I didn't really think anything about it at the time.
So you just went on day as normal until you heard of the second plane?
Well, we got a little more information in the next few minutes that it was larger than a Cessna. It wasn't something. So I decided to leave at that point and go over to where I kept my fire department car, which was at a fire station a few blocks away, and see about getting more information at that point.
What were you doing when you heard of the strike on the Pentagon?
I was driving in my car. I had gone over to get my fire department vehicle, and I was getting ready to head down to the fire department headquarters, and I heard the call. I heard something on the news that a plane had hit the Pentagon, and I turned around and looked down across the Potomac River, and I could see the big column of smoke from the plane.
What was your first reaction? What did you do for whatever you could do for the Pentagon?
Well, at that point, we knew that it was something more than random acts. We knew that this was
Right.
that it was an attack on our country. I headed over to the nearest fire station to the Pentagon, and the nearest fire station in D.C. At that time, D.C. had already sent units, and so everyone in that firehouse had already gone out. So I went to that firehouse and I set up for a logistics area and a treatment and triage area for units from the district and other areas that might be going over to Pentagon.
When you went to the Pentagon, correct?
Yes.
When you first got there, what were you seeing? What was your first thought seeing where the plane had struck the Pentagon?
Well, I came in from the opposite side. I couldn't see, actually. I'd already seen footage on TV from where it had hit, but when I got over there, I came in from another side, and we just sort of stopped. There was a lot of confusion, as you can imagine, and I knew that we were going to need a lot of equipment, and there were going to be a lot of different people, so I was working to set up an area where we could drop all our equipment and have a staging area for equipment and supplies and people.
When you got all of your guys rounded up and you headed into the Pentagon, if you don't mind me asking, what were the things you were seeing inside where the plane had struck?
Well, it was not all that different than a lot of other fires that I had been to over the course of my career. When we went in, we weren't really sure about the structural stability of the building, even though it's a tremendously well built building, but no one had ever figured it being hit by a large aircraft. So we went in sort of cautiously. It was extremely hot because of all the jet fuel, even hotter than a normal fire. But it was a tremendous amount of heat, and we were obviously trying to find viable victims that could be rescued, any survivors who were in the building, and we unfortunately didn't find any.
Into the valley of the shadow of death, where you will watch the back of the man next to you as he will watch yours. And you won't care what color he is or by what name he calls God. They say we're leaving home. We're going to what home was always supposed to be.